every 1% reduction in interest rate is about 3 million people nationally that can qualify.
Definitely inventory is going to stay, I think, higher than it was. Inventories went up last year more than we'd seen the previous few years. I think that's going to continue into 2026. We're going to see higher inventory, more options for buyers, which I think is great.
Again, we don't need like all the masses back in the market. All it takes is one more person to be looking at that home to where your negotiation power starts to reduce. People are optimistic and then prices kind of solidified, and then people are scared and prices are coming down a little bit.
I hope that we, of course, see more buyers out there than we did last year, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to be true. I think that buyers are going to have much more options than they previously did.
In my mind, a threefold phase on real estate.
5% sales price is 5% lower than the list price.
If you could summarize 2025 real estate, you get one word. What is it? Perfect. All right, everyone. We have Happy New Year, Jesse.
Happy New Year. Happy 2026.
Jesse Calvin here with Realty One Mountain Deserts, and kicking off our first podcast of 2026. And man, it's been a year. If you could summarize 2025 real
2025,
estate,
okay. Yeah.
2025 real estate, you get one word. What is it?
Oh, that's so tough.
You can give us like a brief definition on why you chose that word. But yeah, what would your one word be?
Entering stability, which is, of course, not one word, but I feel like we're getting...
Stabilizing.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. I guess that word.
Stabilizing?
Yeah, stabilizing, I'd say. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? What would be your...
I think I'd still go with dynamic.
Interesting. Okay. Elaborate on that. What do you mean? What's
it was interesting, and we have some charts, but I don't have that chart. Is looking at and I think you and I were looking at one chart similar, is like median price points, and like looking at things are just dynamic, like moving, lots of movement up and down, and we would kind of see that, right? Is 2025 was full of, like, we headed into, if we all remember this, right? It's September 2024. I know this seems forever ago, but like a year and a half ago, we saw rates dip. The Fed was going to they did their first cut. This whole tightening cycle, they did their first cut in September of 2024. And so interest rates started lower, and we saw a lot of activity. So all of a sudden rates came down, like low sixes. We started to see a lot of activity. And then, and then election cycle, and this was post-election cycle. So it's post-election cycle, things started to kind of calm down of like, all right, is what it is. We're moving forward, regardless of whatever party you support, right? There's just all the concerns of the unknowns were kind of set aside. Right. Rates came down, activity picked up, and all of a sudden the tariffs, right? And so we all remember that is like this, I don't remember exact dates, but as soon as that hit, I remember sitting down in so many different real estate meetings being like, and the wind is out of the sails, right?
Yeah, I feel like without going into the specifics, there's always something that's kind of like got us on the edge of our seat. At least this last year, we have, we had started, like you said,
higher for you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Even like the recent past, like, right, there's always something that's like, oh, what's going to happen? How's this going to affect the economy? I guess we can expect that. We can expect there's to be something that's going to kind of be alarming in the
and I think, and to that extent, there, that real estate has been highly sensitive, and we just have a highly sensitive economy to everything right now. And so, whereas, not to overkill my one word here, but just that we've seen, like, all right, like people are optimistic, and then prices kind of solidified, and then people are scared, and prices are coming down a little bit, and and the buyer surge, and like not only with the seasonality, just with these different economic events, that there was a little bit of a dynamic. But overall, I would say I would agree with that stabilizing, that we're heading the right direction.
They're kind of contradictory, but I think they're both kind of true. I think definitely dynamic from the beginning to the end of the year, right? It changed so much, and it's crazy thinking back that. We went into it, we had a new president. We had all these things happen all in this past year.
Yeah.
And so from the beginning to the end, it did change quite a bit, but I feel like towards the end of the year, it was a bit more, it started to calm down a little bit more expected, no crazy swings up and down.
Yeah, and I would say, so now heading forward, I think it'd be great for us to really then focus on going forward now in 2026. What do you think? So with that stabilizing trend, what is stabilized and is good for like buyers or sellers to consider, like where we stand now,
right?
And then maybe give a little context of where you think that could be trending. I mean, it's really hard, like we were talking about, just super, super hard to say, well, where are things going to be in 6 months, 12 months? But yeah, what do you think is good about the market now? And what could we expect to change for better or for worse in the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah. So definitely inventory is going to stay, I think, higher than it was. Inventories went up last year more than we'd seen in the previous few years. I think that's going to continue into 2026. We're going to see higher inventory, more options for buyers, which I think is great.
Yeah.
And then we're also going to, I mean, this is your realm, but I think that interest rates are going to be maybe more, they're not going to fluctuate as much, right? We're not going to see dramatic decrease in interest rates, probably not going to see a dramatic increase. And so I think that's also something that's going to kind of stabilize.
Yeah, because if we have, and actually,
I don't want to use that word too much because I don't know if it's the most appropriate for all these.
Well, and we have, let me make sure, we have my son, producer Van here. So we're going to jump into a slide. As pictures say 1,000 words. If this is going to, okay, go full screen on this slide for a second here. Look at our AV abilities here. So this was a chart with projections, right, yeah. So activity and projections as of January 2025. So a year ago, almost to date here, we're on the 7th year when this came out. And so you can see that we were hovering about mid 6s starting 2025. And the projections was that maybe it'll push up a little bit and then we'll see things come back down. Now, what actually ended up happening, so the two cool things about this is that we ended up actually seeing with the tariff concerns, they pushed up a little bit. That gave more inflationary concerns. So rates actually got up into even the low, we got to remember this, they were like low 7s. So year over year trending, low 7s was where we got to and prevailed for most of the summertime, if I want to remember, or if I'm recalling that correctly. But where this is ending, like in the low 6s, we are spot on, like right around there.
The projections, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's where, like we were looking at from where we started to ended the year is about 3/4, but where we traveled upwards to now is about a 1% difference in interest rate.
Yeah, good point. From the top to where we're at now.
From the top to the bottom is a 1% difference in interest rate. So that's I think that's very significant now, but the interesting thing is that started some activity. We are seeing some more listings. We're not necessarily seeing a lot more buying though.
Right. I know. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that? So demand, is that just so tied? Are you seeing that just so tied to rate as far as what you've seen this last year?
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of different scenarios here, right? Like we just had a client who was waiting for a long time, didn't qualify. He was, looking for something in the 500 to 600 range. But when the rates came down from what they were at the beginning of the year towards the end of the year, all of a sudden he could afford a house in that price range. And so I think there's a mixture of a lot of things. Buyers need to be very aware of, they need to be talking to you and just have an idea of where they're at and what kind of payments they can expect, what they qualify for with current rates. If they were looking for a house a year or 2 years ago, or they have the same kind of expectations, like I can't afford a house based off of what the market was doing in the past, then it's probably time to, revisit with your lender. But going back to your question, what's going to happen with demand in 2026? I think that it's going to be, I hope that we, of course, see more buyers out there than we did last year, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to be true. I think that buyers are going to have much more options than they previously did, but
yeah. And let's get into, I think that we've talked that their markets shift, right? That's the reality of the matter is as things change, they cause this. What are those Rube Goldberg machines or whatever? I'm talking Rube Goldberg machine. Yeah. Where it's like just the chain reactions that cue off. Yeah. It's Rube Goldberg. Yep. So that we've been talking about it for a long time. And I think, some people may feel like we're the bull who cried wolf, but it's like at some point in time, we will see interest rates steady and slow down, go to a more normal. We're probably not there just yet. So could we see 1/4 to 0.5% reduction in interest rate on the calm side of things? Potentially. If we see more drastic measures from the Fed, then we could even see lower. Now, whether that's healthy or not for the overall markets, we're not going to go down today. But what I think people need to be aware of is this switch that we've been talking about is saying as rates lower, every 1% reduction in interest rate is about 3 million people nationally that can qualify.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so you're talking about more demand coming into the market. And I loved when we were just kind of chatting before this, that you say it's not like overnight, right? It's a slow shift. But as we slowly see those rates come down and slowly see more people actually then getting off the couch and calling and saying, okay, it's time to buy, we will see, in my mind, a threefold phase on real estate. Phase one is you have less negotiation power. Because right now we are seeing, you have a 1% lower rate than we saw at the top of this market, but we have concessions, right? We're seeing concessions and price reductions in market still, right?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. A combination of all of them.
Would you say what percentage? I know there's probably some stats on that, but what anecdotal, Jesse, percentage, what would you say that you're seeing or hearing in office of price concessions and reductions?
So concessions I'll leave out because it just, not everybody uses concessions. Goodness, let's say 3 to 5, or percentage of 3 to 5. Yeah. So list to sell ratios. Correct. Yeah. I'd say, I should know this off the top of my head, but I want to say it's closer to 5%.
Yeah. And that's vacillated.
Yeah. To be clear, 5% sales price is 5% lower than the list price.
Yes.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Again, I'm just going off the top of my head.
For sure. And then, for sure. But then saying, okay, so step one is that as market solidifies, more buyers, because it's all it takes is one other person, right? You're very interested in a house. One other person is very, like, how much does that take the wind out of the sails sometimes when you're like, oh man, this has happened to so many people. It's been on the market for 60 days.
Happened last week. It was like this property's on the market for like 100 and something days. My buyer saw his property. We saw it in person, and I'd followed up with. So here's the situation was, we were like, hey, we're in the area. Can we view this property? And it was active. And she's like, oh, we actually got it under contract this morning. And that was on Christmas Eve. And I was like, what are the chances after like 100 something days that it got under contract the same day we wanted to see it? Yeah.
Anyway. So that's the idea is, again, we don't need like all the masses back in the market. All it takes is one more person to be looking at that home to where your negotiation power starts to reduce.
Right.
And then on top of that, step one, rates coming down, negotiation power is less. So you might need to say, hey, we got to go in and asking, because the other person is going to try and lowball still, because they're living back in, January 2026, right? Where you can still negotiate right now, right? And maybe it's June 2026. And it's like, no, this is the summer strategy. Now we go list price, right?
That is far and few between, I will say, nowadays. So now it's usually like submit an offer. Like I've had a lot more listing agents with buyers that I'm working with. They're like, hey, they'll just tell me up front, they are very motivated.
Yeah.
Like just submit any offer. And we're like, yeah. So there's a lot more options out there for
now.
As well. Yeah.
Right now. But yeah, that's what I'm saying is, so right now that is the market, and let's enjoy it as much as we can. Because if we see 0.25% reduction in rates, one other person is now interested in that house. Who knows? Maybe it's June, August, maybe it's December next year. I don't know. But at some point, we're going to see that negotiation power start.
Without a doubt.
Because we know the demand is there. We know, well, at least the sideline demand. We know the population. We know the amount of people that want to own homes here in Flagstaff is way outpaced than the available inventory. They just are nervous about the rates and the costs and everything else along with it, right? So, and then I won't be too much further in this analogy, because then we then see, so you see concessions go away, and then you see competition start to come up to where then you have to maybe be more competitive on your terms. And then we see more substantial increase in prices. Now, this could be a 12 to 18 to 36 month cycle. This could be a 3 to 5 year cycle. But I think my guess is we're going to start to see the beginnings of that cycle.
I think so
at some
too.
Point this year.
I think so too. once the comps catch up, like once the comps start coming down, and the when I go to a listing appointment, I'm like, hey, this is what we had sold in the recent past, and it starts coming down enough to where sellers start listing their property for less because the recently sold ones are lower than, or have already come down, then we're going to start seeing more buyers come out of the woodworks. But anyways, this is all down the line. Right now, it's a good time for buyers to go
absolutely
and get pre-qualified, get an idea of what they can afford, and just start shopping if they've been on the sidelines for the past couple of years or if they just have no idea.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. I met with an awesome couple on this last Friday, and they'd seen, heard about some of the different down payment assistance things happening right now, and gotten kind of excited. And then by the time they came in for the consult, they're like, I think we're probably like 1 to 2 years out. And I said, great, it's fine. Let's talk about what you can do now. And it was interesting to see a little bit of shift for them of saying, maybe, because if we're not thinking we're going to get tons cheaper, we could always refinance the rate, but we know there's millions of dollars left in down payment assistance grant from the city, right?
Is it really? Okay.
Yeah, millions of dollars. And then it's $50K for inside city limits.
That's good to know.
Chat program, everybody. And so we know what exists now. We know there's negotiation now. So, again, not being the alarmist, like buy now kind of mindset, but no, I really am excited about saying, hey, assess, take a look, look around. And if you can find the right house and you can get in the right terms, I don't know if you're going to be like significant. Like, you're not going to see 50% off of that home if you wait for 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
Fair?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Yeah.
Any other wisdom?
Sheesh, that's what I came here for, your wisdom. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just really excited for 2026. I think it's going to be a great year, especially for buyers. I think, it's going to be a great year.
Yeah. And one other thing that I would say, I know, again, as we step on each other's toes here, on the selling side, on the listing side, I was actually just yesterday sitting down with a client that was considering like, all right, do I hold on to this thing and, keep, when you do a move up type of thing, do I hold the last, the home behind me and, keep this rental and, passive income and all these dreams and everything. But depending on where the market, because rates are where they are, we don't have a lot of strong cash flow positions a lot of times.
Right.
And so I would generally say my mindset, so let me know what you think on this, just based on projected appreciation over the next 5 to 10 years, that if you're not really long-term minded of like, I freaking love this property, I'm going to capital gains reset and hand this to the kids, kind of thing, unless you're really long-term minded. If you're thinking, maybe we gamble and cover a gap or something for the next 3 to 5 years and hope that we make some, more equity or something, I'd probably say it's probably better to cut the cord.
I think so too. Yeah, I think it maybe 5 years ago was different. Like, the short-term rental market was really good in the early 2020s. I think that we're kind of past that peak, and I think now, you really have to be taking advantage of like the tax benefits and all different angles of real estate investing right now to make it make sense, which you certainly can do. But if you're like, I'm gonna have a second home, I'm going to rent as a short-term rental when I'm not there, but I'm going to be there on all the holidays and, and then I want to make a lot of money from it. I think that's just not the best.
And I would double down on your point of, yes, personally assess, because there's different, goals and things like, if you bought it for low down and you're going to cash infuse and you want to put more money towards it and get that payment down and different, like there's all sorts of ways that you can make things work, but just the ease of like, hey, you bought it, the very first home, like right here, 2010, bought a house with 3.5% FHA down, and then I was breaking even 2 years later when we sold it, but I was breaking even. Whereas right now, where we're penciling someone like that, it's like, you're coming up with an extra $800 to $1,000 to cover a gap.
Right.
Which is not quite passive income.
No, yeah. Negative cash flow is not exciting.
Yeah. Well, awesome, Jesse. Well, no, I love it. I love everything about where we're heading this year. Would just so encourage people to just reach out, assess with you, take a look, and one last, not to tangent too much, but even current homeowners, if you're doing renovations, if you're thinking of, if you have friends that are thinking of buying or selling, like just call Jesse.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. All right.
It's been good.
All right.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah.